Harvest Community Church invocation.
Pastor Tim Asbill, and good to see all of you guys here tonight. And looks like there's a lot going on. So let's pray. Lord, we come to you today and thank you for how good you are to us in this time and season of thankfulness and considering the blessings that you have poured out upon our lives. We give you thanks again tonight. And thank you for this counsel. Pray for wisdom and protection and continued guidance for our city. May you bless them. May they sense and know your anointing on their life. And thank you for all you do in ours. We give you glory and honor tonight. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sabers. Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Here. Smith.
Here.
Are we voting or are we taking attendance?
We have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you'd like to remove? Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address these items? Roll call vote, please.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington. Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. To start this, I'd like to ask the tennis team to come up. We have a proclamation. They are state champions this year, so we're going to read a proclamation for them. Coaches, come with them. Yeah, all the way up. You're on television, so this is your TV debut. Okay, this is a proclamation in honor of the 2019 Mitchell High School girls tennis team. Whereas the city of Mitchell believes the student athletes an important part of the Mitchell community. Whereas the 2019 girls tennis team claimed the first girls state tennis team championship in the history of Mitchell High School under the leadership of coaches Pat Muller, Bruce Mastel, and Kayla White. Whereas the 2019 girls tennis team had several members that placed in the singles and doubles, including in singles, Flight 1, Kelsey Domi, third place. Flight 2, Atlanta Staley, runner-up. Flight 3, Olivia Huber, state champion. Flight 4, Kirsten Bathke, consolation champion. Flight 5, Amber Moeller, third place. And Flight 6, Ashley Jones, state champion. In doubles, Flight 1, Kelsey Domi and Atlanta Staley, state champions. Flight 2, Olivia Huber and Amber Moeller, state champions. And Flight 3, Allison Mastel and Kirsten Bathke, third place. Whereas each year the Spirit of Max Award is presented at the South Dakota Tennis Hall of Fame to a senior athlete based on academic and tennis achievement during their career, as well as contributions displayed in sportsmanship, non-tennis extracurricular, and character, dedicated in the memory of Max Beaners. Whereas Kelsey Domi from the MHS girls tennis team was chosen as the 2019 Girls Class A recipient of the Spirit of Max Award. Whereas these accomplishments are admired and respected by the Mitchell community and demonstrate the character that the athletes at the Mitchell High School possess. Whereas the city of Mitchell would like to recognize the 2019 Mitchell High School tennis team for representing the Mitchell community in such a positive way and congratulate them on their state championship. Therefore, be it resolved that the city of Mitchell wishes to convey this very special recognition by way of this proclamation to the MHS 2019 girls tennis team in honor of this accomplishment. Dated this birthday in November 2019, Bob Everson, Mayor, City of Mitchell. Fair enough. Congratulations, girls and gentlemen. We also have one more proclamation. This is National Veteran Small Business Week, and here's a proclamation for that. Whereas nearly 1 out of 10 small businesses across the United States is veteran-owned, from Main Street storefronts to virtual high-tech startups that advance America, veteran-owned small businesses are a pillar of our community and contribute to the foundation of our nation. And whereas veteran small business owners have energy, skills, and discipline further developed by their military service, a selfless commitment to our country and communities, and focused passion for what they do. And whereas when we resolve ourselves to create thriving communities, jobs, and economic growth in America, we must support and consider the contributions made by our veteran entrepreneurs. And whereas National Veteran Small Business Week highlights the programs and services available to veteran entrepreneurs through the U.S. Small Business Administration and resource partners, and whereas the City of Mitchell supports and joins in this national effort to help America's veteran-owned businesses do what they do best, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain vibrant. Now, therefore, I, Bob Everson, Mayor of the City of Mitchell, do hereby proclaim November 4th through November 8th as National Veterans Small Business Week. Dated this 4th day of November, 2019, Bob Everson, Mayor. Okay, now citizens' input. Does anybody wish to address council? Okay. Second reading on ordinance O 2019-23, amending Mitchell City Code Section 5-4A3A1A regarding garbage billings for residential properties. I would like to make a recommendation that this be denied and we go back and redo what we need to do with the ordinance. Bring it back to you in the next 2 weeks from now in the next meeting.
I'll make a motion to deny also. Second.
Motion to deny. Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We do not have to adopt the ordinance. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for the City Council recess to the Board of Adjustment. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Hearing on Mark Bigelow, MRS LLC applicant and EIG Palace Mall, 1801 North Main, known as Palace Mall. Mark Bigelow, partner, MRS LLC applicant and EIG Palace Mall owner, have made an application for conditional use permit for construction of self-service storage buildings in the various compartment sizes 50 to 400 square feet for household and commercial storage located at 1800 North Main, known as Palace Mall. In the legal description.
Mayor and council, if you saw in the planning commission minutes that the planning commission did hold a hearing on this request and have recommended approval at 3-2 vote as with the conditional use. And one of the conditions that they recommend that outside storage not be allowed at this time. If that does come at a later date, then obviously they would have to come back through either planning commission and or city council. So the owner, or the applicant, I should say, it cannot be here tonight, but it said it would be available by phone. So I'll call the number here momentarily. So.
I see that one of the other, that Tom Dice had an approval, but had his own contingencies. Has anyone asked?
I believe.
That's one of the questions we'll ask, okay?
Hi, this is Mark.
Mark, this is Neil Pedram. I've got you on a speakerphone at the city council meeting here. So I just briefed the council.
Very good.
Yeah, the council just read your agenda, or the mayor just read your agenda item out loud, and stand ready for questions.
Thank you very much.
Mark, this is Susan Sharps on the city council. I just noticed that there was one of the neighboring properties that was in approval of your property or your design with the contingency of their own, the primary access would be from the north. Let's see, from North Main versus the west side links to Sanborn. Did you see that request, Mark?
I knew that there was a letter from Dice Financial. I have reached out to them, but we were never able to come in contact. And I know their concern was about the trucks, any trucks that might be there.
Mm-hmm. So have you considered where the primary access points would be in your design?
So we have thought about that, and we weren't planning on changing any of the access points, and that we believe that the primary access point would stay off Main Street. With that said, we were planning on keeping all access points as currently, currently constituted. So I don't believe that the main traffic would be off that back road, but it would stay off Main.
Are you talking the back road, or are you talking the road that's just right north of ELO that heads east?
Correct.
What street is that one?
19. I'm sorry, Mark, I need a little clarification. So you're saying you still want to have the access be to Main Street, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And the other question that Tom had was whether or not you would have security cameras on your property to control outside.
Sorry, can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yeah, the other thing that Tom Dice asked was, will they have security cameras to control outside activity?
Yes, we would have security cameras there, absolutely.
Thank you.
I was not at the planning commission meeting. I don't know, Mark, this is probably not directed to you, but maybe the people that were at the planning commission. I see it was a 3-2 vote. What was the reasonings behind the 2 no's for their thought process?
The only one I can really speak to is Mr. Getzlinger. I think he just basically said he didn't feel that was an appropriate location for that particular activity.
He thought we were giving up on Main Street on the north end, what his comment was. The other one was, and didn't have a comment, he just voted no. So that was what the 2, and the other 3 said it's, at least we got something going in there. They can fix the roof, they can make it look good. The appearance isn't the best. Maybe they're gonna help it and make the neighborhood look a lot nicer. And it's gonna stay on property tax roll. We're gonna collect some more sales tax. And I have no problem coming off 19th Street. I don't see where the big deal this is. When we used to have a grocery store there, we come off every street to get into there. And that was the old Randall's building. That was a busy store. Yeah, we had the Griggs and the Randalls. They went in any street you could to get to there. So the streets are made for small vehicles like that.
Well, I suppose what they're looking at
Oh, if you want to.
My name is Deanna Hetland, and I suppose what Dice is looking at is if you look at West 19th, Dice is just to the south of there. And if you're seeing a lot of traffic there on 19th, and people are going in and out of hauling their stuff there, which would look like one of the...
Dice is right there.
Yep.
This is yellow.
Yep.
This is Morgan Field.
Yep. He's a half a block away.
So either people, I would assume, are going to go up there on the north on 9th, or there is access there to the south, right?
Correct.
So those are probably how people are going to go in, and they're hauling their stuff, storage on those things. So that's probably what Tom Dice is probably concerned about, I would assume.
Yeah, and what Mark is saying is that he agrees with Tom and that the access would be from Maine, which is what Tom had requested.
Right. So,
Jeff, I did reach out to Mark Fox, who was one of the people that voted no. His concern, and maybe it's partially addressed, but his concern is the indoor storage, and the proposal that we have, I believe, is for there to be storage inside the building as it exists today only. But his concern is that it will lead to outdoor storage, where maybe outdoor storage facilities would be built in the outlots around the Palace Mall, and he didn't think that was appropriate for that area. And as an industrial development person, he would rather see it as something else, but that's because that's his business.
If there was any outdoor storage, they'd have to come back to the.
I believe
planning
that's,
That's
I believe that's the way it reads, John, yes.
That's the
So,
planning commission's
commission. That's
recommendation.
not an issue now.
No, but that was one of Mark's concerns.
That would have to come back, right?
Right. If you guys concur with that recommendation.
I think it's a good deal. I think the north side, I think you need something up there. I think the pictures I've seen, I think it's a good-looking building. We haven't had a lot of progress with that building in a lot of years. People seem to be leaving or coming. With that, I'll make a motion to approve with the same stipulation that any outside would have to come back.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Savers and a second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody else in the audience want to address this?
Neil, can you remind me, were there any other conditions recommended?
That was the only condition that the planning commission, you have the right to put whatever conditions you feel are.
Putting that condition on it? Dan, are you putting that condition on it? Yep. Okay.
Can we make sure the cameras and access are also conditional for this? Is that based on Morgan Thieler and Dice Financial's request?
You want us to force a business to put cameras on it?
I don't know if we can do that.
I don't know how you.
I mean, I would think he would want to for his own protection,
Right.
but,
I don't.
I mean, I wouldn't want to tell you where at your house you have to put them in.
If I was asking for conditional use, you might be able to.
Justin, any thought on that?
Yeah, I think that you can add those conditions if you
Okay.
want. I can't really comment on whether the council wants to add those conditions or not.
If you do, you need some clarity on the access, because how are you going to, we're going to have a way to monitor that if you're going to do that. I'm just throwing it out there. You could do that, but we'd have to have a way to.
I don't understand the access stuff. I mean, we had Pennies out there, we had all this traffic, and now you're talking storage sheds with no traffic.
I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done.
I don't get the access stuff. It's going to be less traffic.
I would ask for some clarification on the access as well. For us in planning, if we will have to change accesses, because we were planning on just leaving it as is with the expectation that the main entrance would stay the main entrance off their main.
Mark, this is Jeff Smith again, and I think one thing that needs to be made clear also is you've got existing businesses that are in the mall, which will need access from all direction. And as far as what I've been seeing and reading is you're planning on trying to retain all those businesses. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. I've spoken with all of them, and all of them, for the most part, Mitchell Telecom is the only one that's up in the air on location, but they do want to stay, and we would like them to stay.
Therefore, I think it'd be kind of difficult to try to limit access because you're still going to have businesses out there.
I'd say do it on what the conditions.
Yeah, and we've got a verbal commitment that they are going to do the security, so I would certainly think that would be good enough.
It is in our best interest to have as much and security as we can.
a curiosity, Mark, have you done a mall like this before where you put in storage?
So we've never done a mall like this. This is a unique. We just finished repurposing a Kmart, a 100,000 square foot Kmart, in the same fashion.
That's a picture that's.
We have a Kmart building too.
So the motion's going to be with conditions?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it?
Perhaps just for the councils, perhaps when they get started in something, we can kind of monitor their traffic flow, and once we get the design laid out, we can probably go from there. I just thought for your own, I'm good that way.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just the red button, right? Okay. Said bye. All right, hearing on Stephen Leanne Jendersey, 123 South Menser Street. Stephen Leanne Jendersey have applied for backyard variance of 3 feet versus 5 feet for construction of an addition to their existing detached garage located at 123 South Menser Street, legally described as lots 11 and 12, Block 2. Applicated addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. The said real property is zoned R2, single-family residential.
Okay, again, Mayor and council members, this was presented to the Planning Commission, and they did unanimously recommend approval. If you saw in the drawing that was submitted, there's a house there that you probably saw on the aerial. That house has since been removed. That's the one that was, we had a moving permit 3 months ago. Yeah, so the aerial just hasn't been updated. So the applicant has acquired the property right to the west, and they wish to extend that garage. It's along the alley. Well, come to find out, the garage is actually 3 feet rather than 5 feet, what it's supposed to be. So they just simply want to add an extension out to it. And as you probably saw there in the Planning Commission minutes, the access is going to remain the same. So they're adding, I believe, 20 feet to the west.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene the City Council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn the City Council reconvene regular session. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve a no passing zone on West 23rd Avenue from North Main Street to the west boundary of Graceland Cemetery. This is out on Cemetery Road. I'm going to speak my piece. I drive that all the time, and I don't like this idea. I understand why it's being requested. However, there's a lot of slow traffic from Main Street to the cemetery, and they want to go 20, 25, and it is a 40-mile-an-hour zone, so it allows you to get around that traffic. I will say there are some issues at the top of the hill, and from Pebble Beach to the west entrance of the cemetery is an area that needs to be watched or might fit this no passing zone, but I don't see it from Maine all the way.
Okay, I have a question, and it's mostly due to the wording. It says due to increased vehicle and pedestrian traffic. So what was it before and what is it now? What is the increase? And how much is that increase? If that's our justification, we need to know what it was and why it's grown and what it's grown to.
Well, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll let Kevin Thurman speak to some specifics on that because he's there every day, but I believe it was a lot more traffic that he's seen, both vehicular and pedestrian, but I'll let him talk.
Do we have a count?
No, not that I'm aware of. And it'd be very difficult to get a pedestrian count, but we have two of Mitchell's larger employers there. The traffic increase from the housing development north and west of the cemetery and golf course, plus the apartment buildings there have added a lot of traffic along that road. We have a lot of people coming from town at certain times of the day trying to, after they take their children to school or back and forth from work at noon, trying to get off Minnesota onto 23rd Street. And if we have traffic coming from the west passing, as they're trying to pull on going west, we've had some close calls out there. My employees have mentioned it several times. I've had a couple of close calls this year myself. But we also see people coming from Vantage Point and Innovative crossing 23rd, and if they're timing it for the first car and somebody pulls out to pass, I've seen them have to run and scoot and finish crossing the street right there. That's why I brought it to the attention of traffic. Talked it over with my staff, and they have noticed some incidents too, and thought it was worthwhile for conversation and possibly whatever you decide to
I
do.
do believe that in a crosswalk, traffic is supposed to stop for the people in a signed crosswalk, is it not? So, that, I mean, they're wrong,
Yep.
traffic's in the wrong to begin with when they're crossing. And there is increased pedestrian traffic. Both Innovative and Vantage Point do have a lot of people that walk, I'm assuming on their breaks or when they need to take a break. So there is a lot of pedestrian traffic, but a lot of that uses the bike path, so.
We also have a lot of people trying to leave the cemetery, and, you know, you've got traffic, heavy traffic going both ways, and if somebody's pulling out to pass, I've caught myself looking one way, looking the other way, and started to pull out, and, oop, I should have checked to see if anybody was passing again before, you know, double check it, so. And a lot of the people pulling out of the cemetery probably aren't thinking like that, since they're not used to that traffic, but whatever the council's wishes are.
Has there been discussion of lowering the speed limit at the same time? I mean, if we're concerned about the safety of pedestrians, you know.
Don't do that to me.
I'm just,
I don't want to have to pay Glenn's crew for every time I go to work.
I'm just saying, I mean, I'm not necessarily in favor of making a no passing and leaving the speed limit. If we're such a concern, we should be addressing everything.
Do we have accident statistics from that area and the number of tickets written for speeding in that area? I mean, I'd like to make the decision with data.
I drive that road quite often.
I drive
don't see
it,
any
I'm out there almost every day.
I don't see any problem with the way it is, do you? I mean, I haven't never.
Again, I don't know. I don't know how much traffic there was before, how much traffic there is now. We've hired people to count cars turning right and left. We could hire people to count the number of people that walk. If we're going to make it based on those perceptions, I'd like to do it with data.
And that's Susan and I's ward.
I have a question also. So I've noticed a lot of people, I noticed a lot of people walking out there too, and I know a lot of people that work there and walk. Is there a certain thing they have to do to get like maybe a blinking light to put there? Because people don't necessarily slow down for people walking there.
There is a sign there that says pedestrian crossing.
Is
So
it
that's
is it blinking though?
It doesn't blink, but it doesn't, I mean, you've got to stop. You're supposed to stop. You could be ticketed for not stopping for pedestrians. Am I right, Mr. Still? Trouble is you got to have a police officer there.
Right, but I mean, maybe, I don't know what the cost is to put something blinking there. You know, because at school zones, they put the,
I know, and a lot of people don't follow school zones either, so.
yeah, but if you see something that says, you know, the little blinking what you are, it causes people to slow down a little bit. There are a lot of people that walk there, though. I
There
mean,
are.
a lot.
How come I never see you walk?
He runs. I was just going to mention that that's Susan and I's ward, and I asked her just on a sidebar if she's heard of any comments or anybody approached her, and I believe not, and I either. One thing that I've never asked anybody to decrease it, but we would consider increasing it, though. But the one thing that had been brought up to me within the last year is a four-way stop at 23rd and Ullman, and that was the only problem that has been brought up to me, but you know, we can talk about all these things, and now it's out. You know, we are the traffic commission now,
Yep.
so anybody can go to any council person at this point, and I think right now, let's just visit about it and see what the constituents want out there and other people, and monitor it, and yes, we would enjoy having some more police if they would like to come out. The Lake Road gets very busy and very fast sometimes. So at this point, I'm going to make a motion to deny, but the citizens, if they want to come forward, we can discuss it further.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mrs. Jerks to deny. Further discussion? Anybody else in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve 2020 employee benefits rates.
Okay, we have.
Mrs. Kelly.
This is Billy Kelly, Human Resource Director. The Insurance Committee met and reviewed the health fund as presented by City Administrator Stephanie Elwine, and recommend the following rates based on the fact that with the health fund, it's in really, really good shape. Our goal is to get $1 million in the health fund, as you all know. We're working steadily towards that. And with the rates that the Insurance Committee recommends, we think we'll be able to keep the health fund very healthy, as well as meet whatever claims and expenses that we have. As far as Wellmark goes, we saw the most increase in our stop loss. It went from, which stop loss is, we pay the first $75,000 of all claims, and then stop loss kicks in. And it went from from 368,000 to 532,000 this year, which is about $165,000 increase. And that was the largest increase we had. Administrative fees that we pay to Wellmark only went up by $3,000 this year. And we also have an aggregate stop loss, which we only pay $15,000 a year for, but that caps our maximum liability at about $3.8 million. With the revenue coming in from all of our premiums from our employees, retirees who pay full price if they're on the plan, along with the city's revenue that has been budgeted, we feel very comfortable that this is a good plan. And our goal is not only, of course, to keep the health fund as secure as it can be, but also to give the employees an excellent benefit. And of everything that I hear throughout the year, employees, especially those who've had significant health crises during the year, come in very often and say how thankful they are for this plan. So Stephanie might have something to add.
I'm certain, Mayor and Council, I'm certainly available to answer any questions, but I guess Billy already really covered it. Our goal over the last 4 years was to build that fund reserve. If you remember, it was down to a negative balance where it was borrowing money from general fund. I think my first year here was $600,000. We feel very confident that we've hit that goal, and if anything, we might end up being a little over where we anticipated ending due to just conservative estimates in the past couple of years. So we will be reviewing that cash balance when we get closer to the end of this year and at the beginning of 2019. Or 2020, thank you, Michelle, I'm in the wrong year. And then depending on what that looks like, we'll adjust what we're doing for 2021 budget to bring that amount down from what we've done in the past.
So that would be,
yeah,
that would be our time of adjustment to see
yep.
how part of 2020 goes and then when we budget.
Right,
Okay.
and even if we end the year at the end of this year and it's still looking fairly pretty positive, if there's individual departments that we need to withhold sending the city contribution of premiums over to that health fund for a month in December, almost give the city contribution a break for a month, we can consider doing that, and I think we're still going to be fine financially in that fund. But more than anything, we've budgeted increases from the city's contributions over the last couple of years at a higher rate than what was recommended as a way to try to build that fund reserve, and we've hit that target, so it's now time to start scaling that back. So I can answer any additional questions you may have.
I'm on that committee also, and I think they have excellent benefits. Billy's and Stephanie have done a great job doing it. And I'll make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2019-48 Corn Palace Plaza Phase 2 Construction Administration and Staking Project 2019-48 with Confluence.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is for continuing engineering and architectural services during construction of the Corn Palace Plaza. We have an estimate that the contractor will start next week and complete by the end of May. So staff recommends approval of the amount to Confluence and the amount of $27,950.
So exciting. I will move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2019-49, Millennium Recycling for transporting recyclable materials to Sioux Falls, Project 2020-6.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is for approval of the agreement between the City of Mitchell and Millennium for the rate of transporting recyclable material to Millennium over in Sioux Falls at the rate of $35 per ton.
Kyle, I've got a couple questions. And I read through it, and to me, it reads fine, great, and sounds like they've covered most of the bases. I'm curious, though, if you could get information from them, and what I'm curious about, and they've got, I'll just pick a number, 15 current haulers in Sioux Falls that they service. What penalties have any of their, and I don't need to know the name of the haulers, but how many haulers have incurred penalties and what have they been? And are they penalties that then start to go away, or do people have reoccurrence as new things come up? And penalties can be over 1% of material that's not classified. They have a section in there called micro that's electronic. So every electronic piece that they get is a $25 penalty. Obviously, I would think some people get those. So my curiosity is, what is the value of those penalties that Millennium has charged back to different recyclers? And do they see a variance of, they've got one recycler that's much worse than another one? And to me, that goes to education of their customers and those types of things. But obviously, in the first year, I would expect we would probably get some penalties.
When we actually talked to Millennium, they were very eager to work with the municipality. Talking about contracts with municipalities, they've had a lot better success. Very, very few penalties. I don't think Yankton has seen penalties at all because they work with the municipality, and the municipality works closely with them versus the private haulers. They were very, very proud of Yankton and their process of hauling. So I think we want to, on our end, do a pre-screen, if we could, from the trucks that are unloading the recycled material from the residential accounts and being transported into our hauler. So that would be the first step. And again, I think it would be a process, but they've worked very, very well with Yankton, and I think they'll work well with us too.
So you think we could mostly eliminate it through the pre-screen? I mean, we're gonna have to unload and bale it before we transport it, so that will be a visual we'll be able to get.
Right. I think that's a big part of it, is doing the pre-screen before we load it up in the hauler.
Okay, anything else?
I was just going to ask Kyle, the $35, I can't remember our budget that we put together. Was that in line with what you had put together for our proposal?
It was in line with the estimate.
I'll make a motion to approve Millennium.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 18, action to approve agreement A 2019-50, purchase toter 96-gallon cart and toter 64-gallon carts for waste equipped Sourcewell awarded contract for municipal recycling collection project 2020-6.
Mr. Mayor and Council, and this is in line with our estimate, and in our contract with District 3, actually going with the grant, the capital investment on 7,000 carts, both a mix of 96 gallon and 64 gallon. We'd like to roll that out very quickly. I would say we're on schedule right now for the middle of December. We've had real good response out of the survey. We've had 1,425 responses. Only 40 out of that 1,425 said that they don't want to participate. That's down to 2.8%. So we feel very anxious and excited about the process and to roll out that process. With the rollout, each individual will get a cart. It'll be tracked, it'll be accounted, the can will be accounted to the property. People can call us if they don't want to participate. We can go in at a later date after the initial rollout and collect the can. We would not want to do that. We absolutely want participation if we can get that, but at this point, it's up to the council to make the participation mandatory or not. Again, that's policy decision. We came to the 7,000. We came to the 7,000 number from the 5,800 residential accounts plus between 1944 and 1435 multi-unit apartments. In addition, we had great feedback from the city's complexes and facilities as well, the Ice Arena, Cadwell, all the Parks and Rec institutions, as well as possibly the schools, estimating about 200 additional cans. So we're excited to roll out the process and get started with that.
Kyle, how many people were in the survey? You said there was 1,425 yeses and 40 noes?
No. There was 1,425 responses. Out of those responses from the survey, there were 40 wishing not to participate.
How many people did this go out to?
Well, we tried to get it out to all the water accounts. It was difficult to get it out to the electronic, and we couldn't fine tune that process. But it was mailed out with hard copies of the utility bills.
So that was 5,500 counts?
Roughly, the total's 58. But there's a big portion of that's electronic.
They do electronic water billing, and there's a little snafu between electronic water billing and getting that survey, correct?
That's correct. But additionally, we do have it on our website. We have it here in the office as well, the survey. So people are welcome to participate on the survey and continue to participate.
So before you had 26% with the little totes. Now you've got 1,500 out of 6,000, so you've got 25% right there. So what do you think you're going to get the first year? 30%? 32%?
That'd be a great guess.
I don't,
I feel like a lot of people have understood that if they're not responding, that they'll get the 96 gallon. I feel like a lot of people are still going to participate. Ideally, it would be great if we could start at 30% and then move on from there and get up to 55, 60%.
There will be an education process as well, because we will be taking more items than what Dependable currently takes.
That's what I've been asked today.
Right.
There will be. So
There will be.
There will be. And
All bottles, wine bottles, beer bottles, pop bottles can all be recycled, any glass.
any colored glass.
Right,
anything.
doesn't matter the color. Cardboard can be put in there. Pizza boxes, as long as it's without pizza, can be put in there. You don't have to rinse your cans and your peanut butter jars, but they don't want them partially full of materials.
Kyle, you quoted 5,800 customers now and 1,900 multi-unit and school customers. That equals 7,700 bins needed, and you're ordering 7,000. So it appears to me we're going to be 700 short.
Right, and so 1,944, that's each additional unit, let's say for apartment complexes. We don't think that they'll have one 90-gallon or 64-gallon per apartment complex, especially in the larger units that are 80 and 100-plus units. We would maybe put multiple cans there, but we would also we want to reach out to the apartment complexes and see if they want dumpsters as well, and want to work with them. That number doesn't include any small businesses in town as well. So again, roughly, I had a number of 7,944, 7,000 containers bought out of 8,000 is about 87%. I think that's a safe number to go by.
And we did get the grant.
The grant is still in the wings.
Right, and
They haven't made the final decision yet, that we have to go to Pier for that?
that's correct. We'll have a trip to Pier. They'll notify us, and we'll have the mayor go, and myself and Kevin as well.
But these containers are part of the grant, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Right. They did identify a capital purchase that could be pushed off to a future year to make up the match if they don't get the grant.
So we didn't need it.
Well, we do, or else you can't get equipment, so.
Oh, but what the tool cat?
No, bigger than that.
I think in our initial estimate, we estimated the initial price to be $490,000 for 7,000 containers. Going through this Sourcewell contract with the mix of 96-gallon and 60-gallon, we come up to $333,000, and so that's a savings of $150,000.
Well, I'm a little concerned that if we buy 7,000 of these units and we have a 50% participation, which is huge, and the other people return them, we're going to be sitting on 3,500 cans. We got a place to store them? The mall.
It's a good option. I think we'll see a lot more than at least 50% on the rollout. Again, from the initial survey of 1,425, only 40 said that they didn't want to participate, and that's out of all the people that responded, so it's less than 3%.
But you only had 1,400 responses out of 5,500 customers, too.
That's correct.
Yes.
If you have extra, do you have an area to store them out at the recycling area?
Yeah, yes, both at the recycling area and the street shop.
Okay. So there is an area that can be stored.
I know that it's probably part of, I'm sure it's part of the education process, but in light of the fact that the recycling will only be picked up every other week, do you have a way of making sure that people know which week it is? Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe I'm the only one that has a hard time keeping track.
No, actually, we're going to set up a schedule with that, and so it's not going to be, we wanted to say the first and third week, but it rolls out where there's more than 4 weeks in a month, so we'll have that schedule available online. Yes.
You're getting all kinds of heck today, aren't you? Okay. We don't have a motion on this yet. So.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charles.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Smith.
One other quick question. If by chance we do need more, as John pointed out, what is the price per container that we would have to, that they indicate at all what kind of a price they would be willing to pay, offer to us?
We haven't gone that far yet, but they may be able to, depending on how many additional ones we would have to purchase, since they'd have the mold and the stamp already, it may be closer to what we're paying for the 96-gallon, which I think is $48 a can. And we estimated up to the $70 a can.
Well, maybe we can ask them at least within the next 12 months if they would honor the price. They could only say no, I guess.
Okay, further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2019-51 SP and Associates to design Daily Drive Lift Station Project 2012. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is the approval for the agreement with SBN on the design of the Daily Drive Lift Station. We talked about, that's one of our wastewater improvement plans. We'd like to move forward with that and work on the design. There's approximately 62 homes where initially that lift station was designed for 10. So we're experiencing a lot more growth out in that area. We did talk about the wastewater improvement plan, so want to move forward and enter into an agreement with SBN.
Now, it should be pointed out that the money for the actual construction we do not have yet. That is pending being able to get an SRF loan for it. Am I correct, Ms. Elline?
Yeah, in the budget, the staff report lists that it's in the budget for next year, but actually that won't be approved unless the revenue comes through with a loan financing the project. So, but the design needs to be done either way for the loan application.
So if the design is done and we can't make it flow next year, will the design information hold if it's a 2021 timeframe?
Yeah, I think we would design for more accurately on what the lots and the development is out there. So it would. It would.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2019-52, South Dakota Department of Transportation, design and construct the Raleigh Street Interstate 90 Bridge Crossing, Project 2020-2.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is for an agreement with DOT on the design for the sidewalk under the Raleigh Street Bridge. And again, there's additional work that needs to be done as far as the retaining wall, the guardrail, and the slope and asphalt and curb and gutter. So we have an estimate of, I believe it's $20,000 for design costs for the city of Mitchell. And the remainder would be picked up by the DOT. These are for design costs are for 2020, and we would have to budget construction costs. I think we have an estimate of $163,117 for construction dollars for the city of Mitchell, and that would be 2021.
Okay, I'll move approval of 2019-52, Raleigh Street Bridge Construction Project. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2019-53, proposal for consulting and design with, there is a misprint here. It should be infrastructure, not confluence, for hazard mitigation for Dry Run Creek, number 2019-33.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll have Joe Schrader, our city engineer, help me with some of the details on this. But we did have infrastructure design group start on a project for the design on some work that needed to be done on as far as improvements at Dry Run Creek. What we want to do is go into a hazard mitigation agreement with the state for those funds. We estimated that the total was, I guess, $80,000, and 25% local match with that design would be $26,000. I think we initially had $80,000 approved for the design. We would spend the $26,750, but We recently talked with District 3 and can apply for the total amount, which is estimated to be $182,550 for the design, which the 25% would have the city pay $45,637. That's the 25% local match. So we'd like to work with FEMA on the hazard mitigation on the design part of this and work with the funding from them.
Kyle, I'm a little unclear. So what are we having them design? What will the end project look like? Or what are we trying to, some water flow improvement or something?
Joe Schrader, city engineer. The purpose of this project is to basically see if we can bring back the floodplain. So FEMA has a designated floodplain through that area. We'd want to look at widening that area, adding additional detention so we can reduce that floodplain area is the ultimate goal of this project.
So from starting where to ending where within city limits, the whole thing?
It would be just west of the bypass
Okay.
and then to just east of Foster.
Okay.
So when we look at the channel, we see a lot of the narrowing sections of where the water is flowing. What we want to do is bring that back out to increase the amount of flow through that area, widen the channel, have more storage and flow through that, clear out the culverts as well.
Kyle, I had a fella call me here this weekend and said that, here's his theory, why it's flooding down there on Minnesota Street because the bridge is too short. Have you heard that theory from him?
This is Minnesota and,
Minnesota and First Street,
right.
by the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So when we experienced our last flood, it actually crossed at Hanson in Minnesota and went down that road and crossed over Minnesota, but not at the actual bridge. I think there are constraints both at the railroad, the culvert under the railroad, and obviously we would be constrained on the size of the culvert underneath Minnesota. But there's a number of areas between Minnesota and Foster where we could gain a lot of storage and capacity.
Very good. Hope he's watching.
Thank you. That's helps me.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2019-54 Sunnyside University Edition Stormwater Study Project 2028 with McClary Engineering.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is the area that experienced flooding during the last storm event. One of the areas, and maybe Stephanie can pull up the map, we did have the southeast section, or I'm sorry, the southwest section, which included Loma Linda and the future industrial area, industrial park area. The northwest section over at the bypass and further west of the bypass. We also had, obviously, the area of the Clockworks TIF, which we're working on through phase 2 of next year. And so this area is the location of Williams and Anderson. And so this is to do an evaluation and understand the drainage and capacity through that area and the improvements that need to be done. The highlighted section there is in yellow. So this is an agreement with McClary Engineering to do that evaluation.
You're talking the yellow area, correct?
How long does something like this take to get evaluation done, Kyle? Does it take a year?
Right, so the schedule we have right now, I believe the survey would be completed in January of 2020, preliminary design June, July of the summer, and then a final design in February of 2021.
I'll move approval of the supplemental appropriation for City Project 2020-8,
Motion by
or
Mrs. Strack,
2019-54.
second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience wishes to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-82, setting fees for ride service company license. Mr. Johnson.
All right, I'll try to keep this one simple. If you remember, about a month ago, we passed the new ordinance for vehicle for hire companies and transportation network companies. In that, the council gave itself authorization to set the license fees by resolution. And since they haven't been set in the past, we need to get them in place so people can start the application process and transition into next year, effective January 1, when the new licenses would need to be in place. So the dollar amounts are kind of an effort to keep things on an equal playing field and also try not to change the total dollar amount for the people that are currently operating. So right now, the current application is $50, and then there's a $50 inspection fee. So that's where you see $100 for an operator or a vehicle for hire company with one vehicle, and then $50 for each vehicle over one. So if somebody's got two vehicles, it'd be $150 total. If somebody's got three, it'd be $200 total. And then for the transportation network companies, we went with a flat fee of $500 because that's the maximum that a vehicle for hire company could have. And also, the transportation network companies will probably be seeing more people in and out of service. And we don't have the same kind of tracking on their fleet as we do for a vehicle for hire company. So if there's any questions, I can answer.
Justin, if an Uber driver, there's one in town, he would have to pay, or she would have to pay $500 fee?
No.
Uber would.
No,
Uber would.
Correct. Yep, so Uber or Lyft, they would get the license, and then the drivers don't need anything.
Would the driver's vehicles have to be inspected?
No. So we're doing away with inspections before they go into service. They still have to meet all the maintenance requirements. So if there's a complaint or they're observed to have a violation in those maintenance standards, then they're called in for an inspection, but they don't have to get one up front.
I would assume that Uber or Lyft requires insurance and proof of insurance?
Yes.
By their drivers?
Yep, and as far as the transportation network companies are concerned, there's some restrictions in state laws to what we could require for insurance. So we're in compliance with what that is, or our ordinance has that in place.
And both Uber and Lyft also require documentation on the vehicle condition by their drivers through their application process of approving their drivers.
And so all the different groups would have between now and the first of the year to get everything in place?
Yeah, I've been working with Cindy to get our forms updated, and actually we're getting ready to send out renewal and I guess explanation letters probably tomorrow, and I'll be sending them off to Uber and Lyft representatives as well.
Okay.
I'll move approval of 2019. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Another second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-83, a plat of lots 1 and 2 of Murky's Addition on the south half of the southeast quarter of Section 11, Township 102 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Potter.
Mayor and council members, this was presented to the Planning Commission at their last regular meeting and did recommend approval. This is outside our city zoning jurisdiction, but it's within 3 miles of the city, so state law requires us to review it. My understanding is being presented to the county tomorrow. Basically, from my understanding is they're going to plat these off into homesteads, and so, as you can probably see by the aerials. Yes, into two individual sites, sir.
Move to approve Resolution 2019-83.
Motion by Mr. Allen,
Second.
second by Mrs. Charles. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-84, plat of Tract 1 of Jesse's addition of the southeast border of Section 14, Township 104 North, Range 60 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota.
Again, Mayor and council members, this was presented to the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval. It's kind of the same thing. It is outside our zoning jurisdiction, but within 3 miles. The purpose of this is the area is described presently by footage, and in order to comply with county regulations, they have to plat it. And so that's why it's in there. So the plat is going to be pretty close to how it's described presently. So again, my understanding is the county is going to hear this tomorrow.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charles, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-86, appointing Mayor Everson as agent for FEMA hazardous mitigation application for the city of Mitchell. Sorry. Mr. Croce, seems to be your night.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and council. So this is a resolution required for the FEMA hazard mitigation grant application to appoint the mayor as the applicant agent. It's for item 21 that we discussed earlier.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-87, authorization of court action and retention of outside counsel. Mr. Johnson.
All right, well, I'm really not able to share a whole lot of details at this time, but this is a situation where we were dealing with a nuisance at 223 North Main. The council did approve back in July a settlement agreement with the property owners. There were a number of conditions in that agreement, but several of them have not been followed through, so the city is forced to take some additional action at this point in order to, I guess, ensure that the agreement is followed the way that it was intended to be. And I guess there's been some additional activities that have taken place outside the agreement that may need to be addressed as well. So at this time, can't really get into a lot of the details, but as it moves through the legal process, a lot of that will become a lot more clear.
Move to approve Resolution 2019-87.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance O 2019-24, changing the zoning district classification of the real property legally described as lots 12 and 13, Block 8, Applegate Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, from Transportation Warehouse and Commercial District to R2 Single Family Residential District. Hutton. Yep.
Again, this was about 2 meetings ago. The Planning Commission did hold a hearing and recommended approval. As you probably saw in the aerial, you would see that the property to the west is all R2. And from what I understand, the property owner at of these 2 lots wishes to perhaps at some point ever refinance or anything like that, or to sell them, or that vacant lot to ever be used for residential purposes. Rezoning it would help clarify that. So it's those 2 lots, 312 and the one that's to the north. And then again, 723, that whole half block is R2.
What is the building, 723, the former Christian school building?
Yep.
What's that?
R2.
That's R2. What's it being used as?
I believe that's where he lived, Mr. Reimers
Oh,
lives.
it's a house, okay.
And it was at some point, it was way back when it was, was housing soccer.
Right, right. That's why I wondered.
Yep. my understanding, it was rezoned residential when the Christian school moved there, so, and then it's been that way since.
I'll move to approve on second reading.
Motion by Mrs. Charles, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt ordinance O 2019-24. Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Roll call, please.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2019-25 supplemental appropriations. Ms. Zellwein.
Mayor and council members, included in the packet is a first reading on ordinance 2019-25. This would approve supplemental appropriations for a couple different items. As you walk through the list, I gave you detail on each one. The first thing to point out is that none of these will change your structurally balanced budget. These are all coming from designated cash reserves that are separate and aside from what we normally talk about when we say what our reserve fund balance is. So the first one would be storm drainage in the amount of $120,000. That's to do the study that you just approved earlier. We currently have $600,000 in restricted cash for storm water. So we thought that would be a good use of that, those funds. Sports Authority, they do receive more money annually than what they've spent out in the past, so they have some cash sitting in reserves. This is just going to give the budget authority. We don't anticipate they're going to need that full amount, but just in case another project came in that they needed to be able to write the check for. Ordinances do require 2 readings, so we wanted to make sure we got that done before the end of the year. And there you can see what the reserve fund balance right now is, $88,000. Other financing, these are just for the bonds that we issued in 2019. The budget wouldn't have been there, so it's taking the cash received from those bonds to move it into the budget authority. Business Improvement District number 3, that's the Main Street bid. That would be coming out of the funds that have been collected for that bid so far to pay off the legal notices that we have to publish annually. The last one, nope, we have 2 more. I forgot we added this one. Debt service funds for the indoor swimming pool. If you remember, we got a sponsorship from Pepsi to cover the cost of the slide. In year 1, they included an additional $20,000 to assist Park and Rec in converting signs over to Pepsi that we had previously that were Coke, as well as the large sign, recognizing Pepsi as the sponsor of the slide. When we received that check, it all went into this debt service account, so that $20,000 needs to go back over to Park and Rec because that's where they're paying the expenses out of. So it's not taking away from the debt service payment we get from Pepsi, but it's putting it in the correct fund. And the last one is the capital projects indoor swimming pool. That's the remaining cash balance in that construction account. We had some outstanding expenses that were still paid after January 1st. And then we also had, at the end of the project, when we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen with some of the professional fees and other expenses, we held off on doing the exterior signage because we were so close in our budget to begin with. We wanted to be sure that we were staying within that budget that was approved. Now that we've made it through that whole process, we did have the funding available to complete the outdoor signage. Nate has gotten that started, and I believe he reported this morning it was going to be installed starting next week.
As early as tomorrow.
Oh, as early as tomorrow.
Hopefully by the end of the week.
That's fabulous. So if you remember on the initial or the original pictures we saw of the building, there was the big lighted signs. Actually, they're not lighted. They're big letter signs in the community brand colors, and then they are front lit with a spotlight. So now the spotlight will be actually lighting the sign instead of just the side of the building, yes. Whatever is left in that account then at the end of 2019, Michelle will end up doing an operating transfer back into general fund for the general fund dollars that were contributed towards the project. So I can answer any questions you might have.
Who was putting the sign up?
Sign Pro. Had the lowest bid.
Okay.
Move to place on first reading.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I was remiss in with reading the proclamations. I got all tied up in that, and I forgot to introduce our new Corn Palace Director, Mr. Greenway. You want to stand up for a minute? Welcome. Been a busy day thus far, hasn't it?
It is. I don't know the past practice, but hairball concert on Saturday, early tickets 25 versus 25.
Look at there, he's already selling.
We welcome you all with a second, too. Only guest.
Thank you. Sorry, I apologize for leaving you out in the public commentary side. With that, we'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session according to South Dakota Codified Law 125-23 legal.
Motion to enter into executive session.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. There will be no action after the executive session.